South Africa's finance minister has unveiled the annual budget, and he's going to hit the country's rich with a higher tax bill. Africa's most industrialized economy is struggling, and Pravin Gordhan is trying to find ways to kickstart growth. But he's also at odds with President Jacob Zuma, and it's not clear whether he's going to survive in his job long enough to plug the hole in the government's finances. Andre Pierre du Plessis reports.
South Africa's economy grew by 0.5% last year, and the two men tasked with managing the nation's purse are at odds at how to get it back on its feet. Jacob Zuma believes it's by spending billions to fight poverty, but his finance minister, Pravin Gordhan, wants to tax the rich.
The relationships between labor and capital, between rich and poor, black and white, men and women, town and township, urban and rural, still reflect the entrenched legacy of colonialism and apartheid. Wealth is produced and allocated along lines that remain fundamentally unjust. The ownership of assets and the distribution of income is captured by a minority of the population, a situation that is both morally wrong and economically unsustainable.
Over the past 2 decades, taxes on South Africa's wealthy have remained mostly unchanged and have at times even fallen, which is why Gordhan is hiking the tax rate for those earning more than $115,000 a year from 41 to 45%, which affects around 100,000 South Africans. But raising taxes on the rich will do little to calm some political factions who believe Gordhan only serves the interests of white South Africans and big banks. An organization called the Black First Land First Party has taken the finance ministry to court for doing too little in the country's 23 years of democracy to address the wealth gap.
There is a High Court application by BLF against Pravin Gordhan. We're saying to the High Court, they must declare him conflicted, compromised and captured. He can't be a Minister of Finance. He is in the pockets of the banks.
There's also talk that Zuma is set to reshuffle the finance ministry. The former CEO of the state-run power utility, Brian Molefe, was set to be sworn in as a member of parliament the morning before Gordhan's address. But it was cancelled following speculation that he may be Zuma's choice to replace the finance minister or his deputy.
Government that is not listening.
As a mineral-rich country, a rebound in commodity prices has helped the local currency, the rand, gain 5% against the US dollar this year. But despite this and numerous measures by Gordhan to bring more money into state coffers, South Africa's growth rate remains too low for them to have any significant impact. Andre Pierre du Plessis, TRT World.
So let's go straight to Johannesburg now, and journalist Godfrey Mutizwa has been watching Gordhan's speech in Parliament today. Godfrey, thank you very much for joining us on Money Talks. So South Africa already has one of the highest tax burdens relative to GDP of any medium or industrial-sized economy. Will raising taxes really help the government and help to raise more revenues?
Thanks, Ajay. Actually, let's just put the numbers into context here, what we're talking about. So the tax to GDP ratio, the tax burden that we're talking about is an increase of 1.1 percentage points to 26.7% of GDP. So it is quite hefty. But by African standards, when you look around, actually, it is quite comprehensive. You look at Nigeria, for instance, it's certainly below 20%, and many of the other African countries. So it is burdensome. But at the same time, the taxes that he has actually touched, when you look around, it's the big one, of course, that will attract the headlines, which is the tax bracket that's been created for those who earn more than 1.5 million rand a year. That's about $115,000. That's about 103,000 South Africans. So he is going to be targeting a few people. Over and above that, the other taxes that the minister has touched really broadly are the usual, shall we put it this way. In South Africa, they call them the sin taxes. So you're talking higher alcohol taxes, you're talking higher taxes on tobacco, etc., etc. Broadly, with the other taxes, he has tried to be as accommodative as he can be. In addition to that, he has also said that the government is looking to reduce its overall expenditure. When you look at the ceiling, the target that the government has set up, he has generally managed to spend within that limit.
Right.
And we're talking about the fact that he says he wants to reduce transfers to state-owned
Godfrey,
entities.
sorry
He
if
also
I
wants
can
to reduce
interrupt you
to
for
the
a second
provinces.
there. So we just want to, we're running out of time a little bit, so I just want to squeeze in one more question.
Sure.
We can't escape the politics of what's happening in South Africa. Gordhan and Zuma are not seeing eye to eye, as AP said in his report. How is this going to affect the government's ability to raise revenue?
Well, certainly it's going to make things more difficult. There's no question about it. The minister at a press conference earlier today was asked the question, what's going to happen to you in the future? And he says, well, it's up to the president to deploy me as he sees fit. But clearly, even when you look through those numbers, there's been a lot of horse trading. You look through some of the things that the minister put through, and you do see the hand of those who have been demanding that more be done to try to increase the role of the black majority in the economy. On the other hand, though, the minister has retained overall control over overall government spending. So what you have here is a little bit of a balance, and I think he has worked it extremely well when you consider the kind of pressures and challenges that he has been facing. There's been a lot of money that's been allocated to things, for instance, like rural development, black economic empowerment, special economic zones, SMMEs, that broadly target the black majority. So clearly the minister has done a bit of work here for Zuma and those who have been saying the government must do more.
Godfrey Mutizwa in Johannesburg, thank you very much indeed.